How did the ancient Romans keep their homes so masterfully organized that we're still uncovering their secrets today? From crowded city apartments to luxurious seaside villas, Roman homes were a masterclass in structure, status, and symbolism. Before we step into the atriums of history, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the ancient world. Imagine entering a home where every wall painting silently speaks of power. Every courtyard is engineered to control rainwater, and the very layout forces guests to walk through a perfectly staged ritual of wealth and influence. The Romans didn't just build houses, they constructed carefully curated experiences. From elite villas in the countryside to noisy insulae in the cities, their homes were blueprints for a lifestyle that blended order, hierarchy, and ideology. Today, we'll uncover how architecture wasn't just practical, it was political, spiritual, and entirely deliberate. Understanding how the Romans organized their homes begins with recognizing that architecture was not just about walls and roofs. It was about status. It was about ritual. It was about where you stood, literally and socially. The Roman domus, meaning a family house located within the city, wasn't just a place to sleep and eat. It was a microcosm of Roman social order. And the way it was laid out revealed everything you needed to know about the family who lived there. At the heart of the Roman domus was the atrium, a large open chamber that served both as a reception hall and a social showcase. This was where the head of the household, the paterfamilias, received guests and clients in formal morning rituals. It was the room that strangers would see, and thus the one most lavished with decoration, statues, mosaics, and even shrines known as lauraria, honoring household gods and ancestors. The atrium also contained two critical features: the compluvium, a central roof opening to let in rain and light, and the impluvium, the basin beneath it that caught the water, directing it to underground cisterns. This wasn't just beautiful, it was efficient, turning the architecture into a self-sustaining water system. Connected to the atrium were smaller rooms, cubicula or bedrooms, alae or side chambers, and the tablinum, the study or office of the paterfamilias. This room often stood at the rear of the atrium and functioned as a semi-public office space. It was where business happened, where clients were met, and where wealth was displayed. Paintings here often showed mythological or heroic themes, like Achilles or Odysseus, establishing a symbolic connection between the homeowner and ancient virtue. The tablinum wasn't just a place to sit and write, it was an ideological stage. Beyond the atrium and tablinum lay the pars rustica, the private family area centered around the peristyle, a garden courtyard surrounded by columns. This was more than a private oasis. It was a visual and emotional transition. From the public life of business in the atrium to the intimate rhythms of family in the garden. Fountains trickled, flowers bloomed, and meals were often served outdoors. For the elite, this was where one escaped the pressures of public life, and where architecture guided peace, contemplation, and controlled luxury. Radiating from the peristyle were essential rooms like the coulina, kitchen, latrines, slave quarters, and the triclinium, the dining room. The triclinium was central to Roman hospitality. Dinners were long, elaborate affairs where guests reclined on couches in a highly choreographed seating arrangement that reflected social rank. Fine art and wall paintings adorned the room. Guests weren't just fed, they were impressed. Conversation, music, philosophy, and poetry often filled the room alongside the scent of roasted lamb or figs. But not every Roman lived like this. While the domus was reserved for the wealthy, the vast majority lived in insulae, multi-story apartment blocks built in Rome and other large cities. Often made of wood and mud brick, these insulae could reach up to 5 stories high and house dozens of families. The ground floors typically contained shops and food bars, with apartments above. The higher the floor, the worse the living conditions. Top floors were more cramped, flimsier, and more dangerous during fires. These units lacked kitchens and bathrooms, forcing people to fetch water from public fountains and use communal latrines or chamber pots. Cooking was done on a brazier, and fire was a constant threat. Despite these limitations, even insulae were organized with function and community in mind. Street-level businesses created social hubs, and some insulae offered communal kitchens for convenience. Dining out in nearby taverns became part of everyday ritual. For the Roman underclass, the organization of the home wasn't about opulence, it was about survival. But even here, architecture helped shape the rhythm of communal life. On the opposite end of the spectrum were the villas, country estates that served either agricultural or leisurely purposes. Two types existed: the villa rustica, a working farmstead complete with barns, grain mills, and beehives, and the villa urbana, a pleasure retreat for the aristocracy. The villa rustica had to be self-sufficient, supporting livestock, producing wine and oil, and housing workers. But make no mistake, many villa rustica were elegant as well, with thermal baths and guest quarters for visiting elites. The villa urbana, however, was where Roman wealth truly shone. These sprawling estates often stood along the coast, offering ocean views and breezy courtyards for the summer. They contained everything a luxury domus had, but on a much grander scale. Colonnaded gardens, libraries, private baths, art galleries, and some even had amphitheaters for entertainment. Designed for contemplation and escape, these villas were the ultimate blend of architecture, nature, and philosophy. To walk through one was to move through a curated expression of elite Roman identity. And that identity was always on display. Roman homes used art, design, and spatial layout to control perception. Frescoes of gods like Castor and Pollux adorned entryways, their gazes meeting every guest who entered. Paintings of mythological epics were placed in key rooms to suggest moral values and social superiority. The layout itself reinforced hierarchy. Guests moved from the vestibulum to the atrium to the tablinum before reaching the inner garden. Each room was a step deeper into intimacy and status, a walk through architecture as ideology. Even the act of walking through a home was symbolic. Aristocrats used long colonnades and garden paths for reflective walks, echoing Hellenistic traditions of blending movement with thought. To walk was to think, to see and be seen, to participate in intellectual life. The Roman home was built not just to house life, but to shape it. What truly set Roman homes apart was how much they reflected the intersection of public and private life. The home wasn't a retreat from society. It was the stage on which society unfolded. Every architectural choice, from the placement of a water basin to the subject of a mural, reinforced social roles, expectations, and aspirations. Even in poorer homes, architectural forms influenced behaviors. Crowded tenements didn't just house people. They created shared rituals like communal dining, daily water fetching, and street interactions. The rich and poor alike participated in urban life shaped by the forms of their dwellings. Over time, even elite homes evolved. By the 2nd century CE, many traditional atria gave way to larger dining spaces or elaborate courtyards with fountains and exotic plants. The rise of imperial power shifted social norms, and homes adapted. With the emperor as universal patron, the old rituals of clientage lost importance. Architecture responded by focusing more on leisure and luxury, less on public business. The Roman home was always a living organism, morphing, adapting, and speaking through its bricks and columns. Whether it was the cramped insulae of Rome or the sprawling villas of Campania, Roman domestic architecture always served a greater function. It reflected not just how people lived, but how they wanted to be seen. It organized life, not just with space, but with meaning. The secrets of Roman home organization lie not just in their layouts, but in the cultural codes they embodied. These were homes built with intention, where every door, every room, every painting had a role to play in shaping Roman identity. What we call architecture, the Romans understood as life itself, disciplined, elevated, and constantly in motion. Now it's your turn. Which part of the Roman home fascinated you the most? Was it the sacred atrium, the hidden messages in the artwork, or the ingenious way they captured rainwater? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what surprised you the most. And if you enjoyed this journey into ancient Rome, don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got plenty more secrets from the past coming your way.